As I mentioned earlier, Mixolydian is probably the most bluesy sounding of all of the major scale modes. In fact, it's often quite common to mix the Mixolydian mode with the minor pentatonic, which will have a minor third in it. Mixolydian has a major third, minor pentatonic has a minor third. So here's an example of how you can mix those two scales together. So I'll play it with the backing track and then we'll come back and break it down. So this solo used the Mixolydian mode along with a minor third. We also used something called the dominant pentatonic scale at the end, which we'll go over after we learn the solo. The first lick goes like this. So we're going to start off with a whole step bend from the 10th fret of the G string. Then grab 8B, 8 on the high E. Back to 8B. Bend up a whole step from 11 and then play 8 on the high E, 8B 2 times. Here's what we've done so far. 1, 2. Now from the 10th fret of the high E string, we'll bend up a half step. So we're going to bend into that minor third. Back down to the 8th fret of the high E, 11B, followed by 8 on the high E 2 times. We've just done this. Next part of this phrase starts off with a half step bend from the 10th fret of the high E string, so we're bending into that minor third, into E flat. Pull off 10 to 8, 11 on the B, 2 times on the 8th fret of the high E. So here's what we've done so far. 1, 2, here's the next phrase. I'll slide into 10 on the B string, followed by 8, 10 on the high E. Pre-bend a half step from the 10th fret of the high E string, so we'll bend into that minor third, strike, release, and then pull off to the 8th fret. Strike 10 on the high E, 10 pull off to 8, 11B, followed by 2 hits on the 8th fret of the high E string. And now here's the next phrase. This phrase starts off with a whole step bend from 11B. We'll then play 8 on the high E string. Pull off 11, 8B. Pull off 10 to 8 on the B. 10G, 8B. Now we'll play the blues note, 11 on the G string, and pull off 10 to 8. Pull off once again, 10 to 8 on the G string. Now down to the root note C, 10th fret of the D string. And now I'll hammer on from 8 to 9 on the G string, that's that minor third to the major third, E flat to E. And we'll end on C, 10th fret of the D string. Here's the phrase we've just gone over. And now here's the next small phrase. 8D. On the A string, 10 slide back to 8, pull off to 6. 8 on the A. 6 slide up to 7, that's the minor third being slid up to the major third. And then grab C, 10th fret of the D string. Moving along, now we're going to shift positions, and the next phrase sounds like this. So here I'll bend up a half step from the 4th fret of the B string and then play 3 to 5 on the high E. So that first note is E flat. And I'm bending up to E, bending the minor third into the major third. Once again, bend a half step from 4 on the B, and then to the G string, 5 to 3, 5, 5. Now I'll shift positions. From the 8th fret of the B string, I'll bend up a step and a half. I'm going to try and bend from this G up to B flat. And then I'm going to descend the blues scale here, 8, 7 on the B string. Before playing 4 on the B, bend up a half step, and then 5, 3 on the G. So the whole phrase would go like this. Now I'll slide into the 3rd fret of the D string, slide from the 1st fret up to the 2nd fret, that's E flat to E, grab 5 on the G, and then 3, 5, 3 also on the G string. So let's go back to the start of this section now. And now here's the final phrase where we're going to use what I call the dominant pentatonic scale. Sounds like this. So I'm going to bend up a half step from the 5th fret of the B string, release that bend, pull off to the 3rd fret. 5, 3 on the G string, 5, 3, slide back to 2 on the D string, and then 3 to 1 on the A string. And if we put all of that together, we've got our solo where we're combining Mixolydian with the minor third. Here's the whole solo. We start on beat number 3. 1, 2, So before ending this section, I'd like to talk a little bit about the dominant pentatonic scale. Pentatonic means 5. This is a 5-note scale, but it's a dominant pentatonic. We're going to have the major third as well as the flat 7. So here's one position for this dominant pentatonic scale. So here I played C on the 8th fret of the low E string, E, which is the major third, then I'm going to play F, which is the 4th, G, which is the 5th, B flat, which is the flatted 7th, and then we're up to C again. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different notes. We can complete that in the next octave as well. C, E, F, G, B flat, C. And we could even reach up and grab E as well as F. One of my favorite scales, dominant pentatonic.